They think power is luck. They think respect is charity. They think influence is inherited through fortune or status. But they are blind. Power is not found. It is built, brick by brick, with discipline, with foresight, with an iron will. Respect is not handed down. It is engineered through control of presence, of perception, of the image you project into the world. Influence is not gifted. It is forged through relentless refinement of the self until no man can deny your weight in any room you step into. Understand this. Nobody can ever outgrow you if you master one truth: control of perception. Machiavelli called it the supreme weapon of rulers, the force that bends allies and enemies alike without chains, without armies. For perception shapes belief, belief shapes action, and action shapes destiny. If you can decide how the world sees you, you decide how the world treats you. And if you can decide how the world treats you, you are untouchable. Others may outwork you, others may outtalk you, others may even outshine you for a fleeting moment, but perception is the tide, and all men are ships. When you command it, you command the sea itself. Comment below, I choose power over comfort. Let it seal this moment in your life. For this is not entertainment, this is initiation. The day you step away from the herd and step into the cold circle of the few who cannot be broken. Number 1. The core truth. Power does not begin with the crowd. It does not begin with status, wealth, or the admiration of others. Power begins with the mirror, with the man staring back at you. That man is either your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. Before you can command anyone else, you must first prove you can command yourself. Every man is born with urges that weaken him, distractions that fracture his focus, impulses that keep him chained to mediocrity. The ordinary man obeys them without question. He wakes when he feels like it, eats what he craves, speaks without thinking, wastes time as if it were endless. But the untouchable man, the man who cannot be outgrown, he reverses the order. He does not obey his impulses. He makes his impulses obey him. Understand this. The most dangerous man alive is the one who rules his own mind. No amount of wealth, charm, or force can compete with that. Discipline sharpens him into a weapon. Restraint makes him unshakable. Silence cloaks him in mystery. And mystery is magnetic. It pulls people toward him without effort. The man who controls himself carries a weight that others feel before he even speaks. This is why the world bends to those who do not bend to themselves. When you master your inner world, the outer world has no leverage. Temptation loses its grip. Doubt loses its voice. Fear loses its edge. Because when you refuse to break, reality has no choice but to shift around you. Self-mastery is not a philosophy, it is war, a private war that repeats every morning. The first battle is against the bed when it tempts you to stay weak. The next against the cravings that demand you betray your body. The last against the thoughts that whisper you are not enough. If you do not conquer these small battles, you cannot win the greater war of life. But if you win them day after day, you carve yourself into something no circumstance, no man, no storm can move. This is the throne that cannot be stolen, control over yourself. Every empire falls, every crown is passed, but mastery over your own mind, your own body, your own spirit, that is eternal. Comment below, I am my own ruler. Write it, seal it, let it brand your mind. Because the day you conquer yourself is the day the world becomes incapable of conquering you. Number 2, the weapon of presence. Strength that stays hidden dies in silence. Power that does not radiate outward becomes dust. Self-mastery is the foundation, but presence is the weapon. Once you conquer yourself, the world begins to feel it. Before you even speak, your presence announces you. This is not arrogance, it is gravity. And gravity does not beg, it pulls. The untouchable man understands this. He knows people respond less to his words than to the weight behind them. A single glance, a pause in silence, a calm stillness. All carry more power than frantic speech. The man who rules himself carries no desperation, no scattered energy. And because he is not moved by the noise of others falls quiet around him. Presence is perception weaponized. It is not about being the loudest in the room. It is about being the axis around which the room turns. Machiavelli wrote that men are moved more by appearances than by truth. The wise ruler does not resist this fact. He uses it. When you master your presence, you shape how others experience you, without force, without effort. They feel the discipline carved into your posture. They sense the restraint in your silence. They see the sharpness in your eyes. And before they even know your name, they know your weight. But presence cannot be faked. You cannot posture your way into true gravitas. It only comes from inner command. A man who has mastered himself radiates differently than one who is pretending. People feel it. They may not explain it, but they cannot ignore it. This is why men of presence rarely need to demand attention. It is already given to them. Presence is not about intimidation. It is about inevitability. It is the quiet certainty of a man who knows who he is and does not flinch. That certainty cuts deeper than any display of aggression. It tells the world, I cannot be shaken, I cannot be rushed, I cannot be reduced. Understand this. Presence is a silent crown. It needs no jewels, no throne, no approval. It is carried within you, and once forged, no one can strip it from you. Comment below, my presence is my power. Stamp it, because from this moment forward, your very existence becomes your most lethal weapon. Number 3, the law of foresight. Power is never just about the moment you stand in. That moment is already gone by the time you realize it. The present is nothing but the echo of the past, and the future is where power is either lost or secured. Strength without foresight is a sword swung in the dark. You may cut once, maybe twice, but you are blind, and blindness always leads to collapse. The untouchable man does not fight blind. He sees further. He plans sharper. He prepares when others drift. That is why nobody can outgrow him, because while they are trapped in the present, he already lives in tomorrow. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a flood. It destroys the unprepared. But the man who builds walls and channels before the water comes, he survives, he thrives, he rules. The masses wait for luck. The herd waits for opportunity. But the one who practices foresight has already built the path before opportunity arrives. To outsiders, it looks like luck, but to him, it is inevitability. His victories are not accidents. They are traps he set months, even years before. Understand this. Foresight is your hidden armor. It is the silent fortress nobody sees until it is too late. The man without foresight is a slave to chance. He waits, he reacts, he complains. Every setback knocks him down because he never imagined it could come. But the man of foresight, he is never surprised, he is never cornered. He has already imagined the storm, he has already prepared for the betrayal. He has already planned for failure, and so when the world trembles, he does not. This is not paranoia, it is mastery over direction. The man of foresight does not waste time predicting every detail. He builds himself so that whatever comes, he is already positioned to endure it and turn it to advantage. He studies patterns, he reads the moves of men, he watches quietly while others stumble into traps, and sometimes those traps are his own. Because foresight is not just seeing ahead, it is making others blind to how far ahead you already are. Patience is the price of foresight. It is easy to rush, to act without thought, to chase every impulse. But patience is the mark of the untouchable man. He holds back when others lunge. He waits in silence when others shout. He plays the long game when others burn themselves out in the short one. And when the dust settles, he is the one still standing. Because foresight is not a sprint, it is strategy. Strategy demands discipline. It demands clarity. It demands the ability to detach from the noise of now. Men who cannot detach from the present will always be ruled by it. They react to insults. They rush at opportunities. They panic at setbacks, but the strategist does not panic. He already saw this moment. He already built his response. He already knows that today is nothing but one step in a 100-step plan. That is why he appears calm when others lose control, because to him, this moment is not the battlefield. The battlefield was yesterday, when he prepared, when nobody was watching. Think of foresight as a throne. Every crown is temporary, every empire rises and falls, but the man who sees further than others cannot be dethroned, because even when the crown falls, he has already positioned himself for the next one. Fortune is cruel to the unprepared, but it bends to the prepared like iron in the fire. This is why the untouchable man never waits for the future. He engineers it. Do not mistake foresight for paranoia, weakness, or fear. It is not fear to prepare. It is not weakness to anticipate. It is power, because the man who prepares is never desperate. He never begs for rescue. He never blames chance. He stands unshaken because in his mind, he has already lived this moment 100 times before. Foresight is not about controlling the future. It is about controlling yourself so deeply that no future can control you. It is about becoming inevitable. The storms will come, the betrayals will come, the losses will come, but they will not break you, because you already accounted for them. You already rehearsed them in silence. You already built exits where others saw walls, bridges where others saw cliffs. That is why you endure. That is why you rise. That is why you cannot be outgrown. Remember this. The world rewards the man who can see 1 step further than his enemies, 2 steps further than his peers, and 3 steps further than his former self. Comment below, I see beyond the moment. Let that phrase anchor itself into your mind, because from this moment forward, you are no longer drifting in the flood. You are building the channels. You are no longer reacting. You are dictating. You are no longer hoping for fortune. You are seizing it before it even arrives. Foresight is not about knowing what comes next. It is about becoming the man who is ready for anything. And once you achieve that, you are no longer subject to the chaos of life. You are above it. You are untouchable. Number 4, the law of resilience. Power without resilience is fragile. Influence without resilience is temporary. Respect without resilience is shallow. The world does not reward the man who shines when conditions are perfect. It rewards the man who still stands when everything collapses. That is the law of resilience. To endure storms without breaking, to absorb pressure without losing form, to transform struggle into steel. Understand this. Every man will be tested. Every empire, every reputation, every strength will face its season of winter. Comfort never lasts. Circumstance never stays in your favor. Some men panic, some collapse, some vanish into weakness. But the untouchable man does not vanish. He remains, because he has built himself not for comfort, not for ease, not for applause, but for endurance. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about becoming immune to it. It is not about hiding from hardship. It is about standing in it, eyes unblinking, spine unbroken, heart steady and unshaken. The ordinary man runs from discomfort. The extraordinary man embraces it. He sees struggle not as punishment, but as fire, and like iron in the forge, he lets the flames temper him into something unbreakable. Machiavelli observed that fortune is cruel, unpredictable, violent, but cruelty does not destroy the resilient, it reveals them. When life strips you of comfort, when plans shatter, when allies fall away, the resilient man does not beg for relief. He tightens his jaw, steadies his breath, and moves forward. He adapts, he adjusts, he evolves. That is why no force can outgrow him, because he grows in the very soil where others rot. Resilience is not built overnight. It is forged in the small choices you make daily. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, you strengthen your armor. Every time you hold your silence when provoked, you sharpen your blade. Every time you endure discomfort willingly, you expand your threshold for power. Piece by piece, choice by choice, you become the kind of man storms cannot move. And make no mistake, storms will come. You will be underestimated, betrayed, doubted, dismissed. You will be struck by losses, delays, failures that would cripple weaker men. But understand this, resilience is not about denying pain. It is about absorbing it. When others collapse under the weight of reality, you stand taller because you have carried weight willingly. You have practiced suffering until suffering no longer defines you. This is where Stoicism aligns with cold power psychology. The Stoic man does not curse hardship. He uses it. He knows that resilience is built by embracing friction, by training the mind to remain calm when the body aches, by teaching the heart to remain steady when the world fractures. This calm is not weakness, it is dominance over the self, and dominance over the self is the root of all power. Think about the oak in the storm. The weak branches snap, the shallow roots are torn out. But the oak with deep roots, the oak that has bent in winds for decades, stands. It may shake, but it does not fall. That is resilience, flexibility without surrender, endurance without collapse. And when the storm ends, the oak still shades the ground while the fragile trees lie scattered. Resilience also grants something greater than survival, inevitability. The man who cannot be broken becomes a force others cannot ignore. They may resist you, they may doubt you, they may outnumber you, but if you endure long enough, the world must yield, because time itself becomes your ally. Where others burn out, you remain. Where others fade, you persist. Where others surrender, you advance, and that persistence carves your legacy into stone. But resilience requires choice. It requires you to walk into discomfort willingly, to accept pain without complaint, to embrace solitude without fear. The resilient man does not demand an easy road. He prepares for the hardest one, and when it comes, he is already ready. This is why resilience is the ultimate equalizer. You may not always be the smartest, the strongest, or the most connected, but if you can endure longer than everyone else, you will outlast them. And the one who outlasts is the one who inherits power. Resilience does not mean stubbornness. It does not mean clinging blindly to the same path. It means enduring without surrender, adapting without losing your center. The river that carves stone is not violent, it is patient. That is resilience in its purest form, patient power that wears down everything in its path. Comment below, I do not break. Write it, claim it, seal it. Because resilience is not just survival, it is supremacy. The world does not belong to the man who never falls. It belongs to the man who refuses to stay down. Remember this, storms are not setbacks. They are proving grounds. They test your preparation, your depth, your will. And every time you endure, you earn a power no title, no crown, no applause can match, the power of permanence. For the resilient man does not fade with time, he grows with it. He does not bend to the world bends around him. And that is why nobody can outgrow him. Number 5, the law of detachment. Power belongs to the man who feels everything but is ruled by nothing. This is the law of detachment, to rise above emotion, to hold clarity while others drown in reaction, to see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Detachment is not cold indifference. It is supreme control. It is the refusal to hand over your power to anger, fear, or desperation. Understand this. Most men are slaves to their emotions. They are provoked by insults, broken by rejection, paralyzed by fear. A single word can unbalance them. A single setback can unravel them. That is weakness. The untouchable man knows better. He does not deny his emotions, but he refuses to bow to them. He acknowledges anger, but he does not rage. He feels fear, but he does not tremble. He sees desire, but he does not kneel before it. This is why detachment is a weapon. Emotions cloud judgment. They rush decisions, they blur perception. But detachment brings stillness, and in stillness, clarity sharpens. The detached man sees, moves others miss because he is not blinded by the fog of feeling. He speaks less, listens more, acts only when the strike will matter. Others call this cold, others call it ruthless. But in truth, it is freedom. For the man who cannot be controlled by emotion cannot be controlled by anyone. Detachment also grants mastery over conflict. When others shout, the detached man waits in silence. When others attack recklessly, he holds his ground. When others panic, he calculates. This calm unnerves people more than aggression ever could. It unsettles them because it reveals a strength they cannot reach. They burn energy while he conserves it. They lose themselves in rage while he positions himself to win. Machiavelli taught that men are easily deceived by appearances, easily manipulated by their passions. The wise man does not resist this truth. He uses it. He stays detached so he can read the chaos clearly while others are swallowed by it. This makes him untouchable, not because he avoids struggle, but because struggle cannot shake his mind. But let me be clear, detachment is not weakness, and it is not apathy. Apathy is emptiness. Detachment is command. The detached man feels, but he decides. He owns his emotions, but they do not own him. This is why his decisions carry weight. They are not reactive, they are deliberate. He moves with purpose while others flail with impulse. Think of fire. Most men are consumed by it. They let anger burn them alive. They let desire set them chasing illusions. They let fear paralyze them. But the detached man holds fire in his hand. He does not extinguish it. He controls it. He bends it toward his will. That is the difference. That is power. Detachment also protects your energy. Emotional men bleed power in every argument, every insult, every petty distraction. They scatter themselves thin. But the detached man leaks nothing. His energy is preserved for what matters. That is why his presence grows heavier, his actions sharper, his path clearer. He wastes nothing. And when chaos comes, and it always comes, the detached man becomes unshakable. Others are pulled into storms of doubt, panic, noise, but he stands apart. He sees clearly, he endures calmly, he adapts rationally, and because he does not drown in the chaos, he can command it. That is why detachment is feared. It makes you immune to manipulation, immune to pressure, immune to collapse. You must train this daily. When insulted, pause instead of reacting. When tempted, wait instead of indulging. When afraid, breathe instead of fleeing. Each act of restraint sharpens your detachment, and slowly, the world loses its grip on you. Understand this. The man of detachment is free. Free from chains of impulse. Free from control of others. Free from the tyranny of emotion. And that freedom makes him the most dangerous man in the room. He does not shout, but his silence commands. He does not chase, but opportunities come to him. He does not beg for respect, but it bends to him. Comment below, I master emotion, it does not master me. Let that be your anchor, because once you embody this law, nobody, not enemies, not circumstance, not even yourself, can drag you down. Detachment turns the storm into silence, the chaos into clarity, and the noise into nothing. The man who masters detachment does not escape life. He dominates it. He does not reject power. He amplifies it. He does not lose his humanity. He strengthens it. And because of this, he rises above the herd, untouchable, inevitable, unstoppable. Number 6, the law of adaptability. Power that cannot adapt will eventually collapse. The strongest fortress falls if it cannot evolve with the weapons of the age. The mightiest empire crumbles when it clings to the past while the world moves forward. Adaptability is the law that keeps the untouchable man untouchable, because no matter what changes around him, he remains relevant, effective, and in command. Understand this: rigidity is the death of power. The man who insists that the world stay still for his sake will always be broken by it. But the man who adapts does not resist change. He absorbs it, he bends with it, he redirects it. He treats chaos not as a threat, but as raw material. Where others see collapse, he sees construction. Where others see ending, he sees opportunity. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the bold, but he also warned that fortune punishes the inflexible. He compared it to a river, calm at times, violent at others. The unprepared are destroyed by its floods. But the prepared, those who adapt their paths, their dams, their channels, use the very same water to expand their power. Adaptability is not passive surrender. It is active transformation. It is the art of bending without breaking, shifting without losing your center, evolving without losing your essence. The untouchable man adapts in 3 ways. First, he adapts in thought. His mind is not chained to one method, one ideology, one narrow perspective. He studies, he questions, he refines. He understands that yesterday's strategy may not win tomorrow's war. And so he updates himself constantly, sharpening his knowledge, learning from every defeat, absorbing wisdom from every source. Second, he adapts in action. He does not cling to failed tactics out of pride. He adjusts, he pivots. He is ruthless with himself, cutting away what no longer works, even if it once brought success. The herd clings to the comfort of routine. The untouchable man abandons routine the moment it weakens him, because his loyalty is not to the past, it is to power itself. Third, he adapts in identity. Most men trap themselves in who they used to be. They cling to labels, to titles, to versions of themselves long outgrown. But the untouchable man is not defined by static identity. He reinvents himself as needed. He grows into new forms. He refuses to be predictable. He remains a mystery even to those who think they know him. That mystery is strength. Adaptability is not weakness. Weakness surrenders to change. Adaptability commands change. Weakness drifts aimlessly. Adaptability steers the current. The resilient oak survives the storm by bending. The adaptive man survives life by reshaping. And in reshaping, he does not lose power, he multiplies it. Consider the predator in the wild. The one who hunts in only one way starves when conditions shift. But the predator who adapts, who changes his hunting ground, his method, his prey, survives every season. Men are no different. The world changes daily. The economy shifts. Technology evolves. Loyalties dissolve. If you are rigid, you break. But if you adapt, you outlast. And outlasting is the purest form of dominance. Adaptability also grants unpredictability. The man who always acts the same is easy to outmaneuver, but the man who adapts keeps others guessing. He cannot be cornered because he always finds another way out. He cannot be anticipated because he shifts faster than others can study him. That unpredictability is power because men fear what they cannot calculate. But adaptability requires ego death. You must be willing to discard what no longer serves you, even if it once made you strong. Most men cling to old habits out of pride, refusing to admit they no longer work. That is why they stagnate. The untouchable man cuts ruthlessly. He kills his former self to give birth to the next. He evolves without apology. This does not mean adapting blindly to every change. It means adapting strategically. The weak man is tossed around by every wave. The strong man studies the waves, chooses the one that serves him, and rides it with precision. That is controlled adaptability, flexibility without surrender, change without chaos. Adaptability also strengthens presence. People look to the man who thrives while others struggle. They cannot explain why he succeeds where others fail, but they feel it. They see him remain calm in crises, decisive in uncertainty, unbroken in transition. That aura draws loyalty, respect, and fear. It makes him inevitable because he proves again and again that nothing can stop him. Understand this. Adaptability is not about survival. It is about supremacy. The survivor adapts to live another day. The untouchable man adapts to rule every day. He does not simply weather change. He uses it to rise above those who resist it. He turns volatility into advantage. He converts uncertainty into strategy. He transforms disruption into dominance. Comment below, I evolve endlessly. Write it, claim it, live it. Because adaptability is the law that guarantees permanence. It is what makes your presence timeless, your strategy relentless, your power impossible to erode. The world will never stop changing. Fortune will never stop shifting. But if you master adaptability, you become untouchable, not because you resist change, but because you command it. And the man who commands change commands destiny itself. Number 7. The law of influence. Power that is contained within you is strength. Power that radiates outward is influence. The law of influence is not about manipulation, nor about begging for followers. It is about presence so undeniable that others align themselves with you willingly. The untouchable man does not chase influence, he becomes it. Understand this. Most men confuse influence with popularity. They believe numbers equal power. They think being liked equals being respected. But popularity is fragile. It depends on the mood of the crowd. True influence is not fragile. True influence shapes the crowd itself. It bends perception. It sets the rhythm others follow. It makes your presence the compass by which others navigate. Machiavelli wrote that men are ruled by appearances more than by truth. Influence is the art of mastering appearances, not as deception, but as deliberate projection. The untouchable man understands that how people see him matters more than what he says. His image becomes a weapon, his reputation a shield, his aura a crown. He invests in the shaping of perception, knowing that influence is not what you claim, it is what others cannot deny. Influence begins with self-mastery. The man who cannot command himself cannot command respect. But once discipline, detachment, resilience, and adaptability are forged, influence flows naturally. People sense it in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you endure silence. They feel that you are different, heavier, sharper. Influence is not announced, it is felt. The untouchable man influences by embodying what others lack. The undisciplined admire his control, the fearful admire his calm, the impulsive admire his patience. They may not understand it fully, but they are drawn to it because influence is magnetic. It attracts, it holds, it directs. But influence is not about forcing compliance. It is about alignment. When your presence is strong, people align themselves with you naturally. They follow without needing orders. They respect without needing explanation. They listen without needing persuasion. And because you have mastered yourself, your influence carries no desperation. It is not needy. It is inevitable. Influence also demands clarity of identity. People cannot follow a man who is uncertain of who he is. But when you stand firm in your principles, your values, your direction, you create a gravitational pull. Others orbit around certainty. They are drawn to conviction. That is why the untouchable man does not seek approval. He radiates certainty, and certainty becomes his influence. There are two kinds of power: power over men and power through men. Power over men requires force. Power through men requires influence. The first is temporary because force breeds resistance. The second is lasting because influence breeds loyalty, respect, and inevitability. Influence does not command by fear or by bribes. It commands because others see no alternative but to respect it. The man of influence also understands timing. He does not waste words trying to convince. He plants seeds through silence, through small actions, through presence. Over time, those seeds grow inside others until they believe they reach the conclusion themselves. That is the highest form of influence. Not to push, but to shape reality so subtly that others feel it was their own choice. But influence is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is cold, deliberate projection. It is the ability to remain silent and still command. It is the ability to give one word and have it echo louder than the speeches of others. It is the ability to move men without raising your voice, without lifting your hand. To build influence, master two weapons: consistency and rarity. Consistency makes your presence reliable. People trust what they know will endure. Rarity makes your presence valuable. People crave what they cannot easily access. The untouchable man balances both. He is consistent enough to be respected, rare enough to be desired. This combination forges influence that cannot be broken. Understand this: influence is not an accident. It is the deliberate result of discipline, presence, silence, foresight, adaptability, and resilience converging into one force. By the time others notice it, it is already too late. They are already moving in your orbit. Comment below: my presence shapes reality. Seal it. Because influence is not about numbers, applause, or recognition. It is about shaping the environment itself. And once you master influence, you no longer enter a room to be accepted. You enter, and the room adapts to you. The untouchable man does not chase followers. He does not chase validation. He does not chase respect. He becomes the axis around which these things revolve. That is influence. That is inevitability. And that is why nobody can outgrow him. Number 8. The crown of mastery. Mastery is the summit where all the laws converge. It is not a single habit, not a single victory, not a single moment of glory. It is the unification of every law you have forged. Discipline, resilience, foresight, silence, detachment, adaptability, and influence, woven into one unshakable presence. The crown of mastery is not given by others. It is not granted by applause. It is not handed down by fortune. It is earned in silence, proven in storms, and carried in your being until no one can deny it. Understand this: mastery is not perfection. Perfection is a fantasy. Mastery is command. Command over self, over perception, over direction. The untouchable man does not claim he is flawless. He claims he is in control. Control of his emotions, control of his actions, control of his presence, control of his path. He may stumble, but he never stays fallen. He may feel pain, but he never lets it decide his next step. He may face loss, but he never lets it strip away his essence. That is mastery. Machiavelli wrote that fortune punishes those who are unprepared, yet spares those who can command their circumstances. The man of mastery understands this better than anyone. He does not hope the world will favor him. He does not pray for life to be easy. He prepares so deeply that no matter what comes, he remains standing. Mastery is not luck. It is inevitability. The man of mastery is beyond comparison. He does not measure himself against peers, rivals, or the crowd. His only opponent is the man he was yesterday. Every day, he sharpens, adjusts, evolves. Every test strengthens him. Every setback informs him. Every victory humbles him into preparing for the next battle. He is never stagnant. He is never satisfied. He is always expanding. That is why he cannot be outgrown, because while others peak and decline, he continues to rise. When you wear the crown of mastery, you no longer chase respect. You command it. You no longer chase opportunities. They find you. You no longer seek validation. You embody it. This crown is not visible, but it is felt. People sense it in your calm, in your weight, in your steadiness. They may not fully understand it, but they cannot deny it. The crown of mastery is forged in hardship. You do not earn it in comfort. You earn it when storms break and you remain. You earn it when betrayal comes and you stay focused. You earn it when the crowd doubts you and you move forward anyway. Mastery is not a medal pinned to your chest. It is scars turned into armor, failures turned into wisdom, pain turned into power. But mastery also demands humility. The moment you think you have arrived, you have already begun to decline. The man of mastery never claims completion. He knows mastery is endless refinement. It is not a destination, it is a state of becoming. He wears the crown not because he says he has earned it, but because his actions, his presence, and his results prove it without words. This crown cannot be stolen, wealth can be stolen, titles can be stripped, status can be lost, but mastery remains. It is carried within you. It cannot be bought, borrowed, or taken. It cannot be undone once forged. That is why it is the highest form of power, because it is permanent. Understand this. Mastery is rare. Most men will never reach it because they quit too early. They cling to comfort. They crave approval. But for the few who refuse to stop, who refuse to break, who refuse to stagnate, mastery is inevitable. And when they wear that crown, they step into the realm of the untouchable. Comment below, I wear the crown of mastery. Write it as your declaration, because mastery is not a gift, it is a conquest. And once it is yours, no one, nothing, no force in the world can outgrow you. Number 9, the law of legacy. Power is temporary if it dies with you. Influence is fragile if it vanishes when you leave the room. Mastery becomes eternal only when it echoes beyond your own life. This is the law of legacy, to carve yourself so deeply into the world that your presence endures after your body has gone. Legacy is permanence. Legacy is power that time itself cannot erase. Understand this. Legacy is not fame. Do not confuse the two. Fame is shallow, fragile, built on the shifting mood of the crowd. Fame is borrowed attention, and attention is fickle. The same crowd that cheers today will boo tomorrow. The same mouths that praise you will forget you the moment a new distraction appears. Fame is noise. Legacy is silence that continues to echo long after you have gone. Machiavelli observed that empires fall, but great names endure. Why? Because stone crumbles, armies disperse, wealth evaporates. But the example of a man carved into the memory of others remains. Julius Caesar's Rome collapsed, but the name Caesar still carries weight centuries later. Alexander's empire shattered, but the idea of Alexander still shapes the way we think about conquest. This is the power of legacy. It outlives the tangible and rules through the intangible. Legacy is not built on possessions. It is not built on applause. It is built on impact, on how deeply you shift the trajectory of those who encounter you. The untouchable man understands this. He does not waste his life chasing recognition. He builds his life into a monument of discipline, resilience, and foresight. He knows that every choice is either investing in his permanence or wasting into dust. Legacy forces clarity. Ask yourself, what will you leave behind? Will it be chaos, distraction, and emptiness? Or will it be a blueprint of strength, vision, and inevitability? Most men drift, leaving behind nothing but wasted years and faint memories. But the untouchable man chooses differently. He chooses to live deliberately. He understands that today is not just a day, it is a brick in the structure of his legacy, and he lays each brick with precision. Legacy is protection. The man with no legacy dies twice, once in the flesh and once in memory. But the man of legacy dies only once, because memory keeps him alive. His presence continues to influence, his voice continues to echo, his example continues to shape. This is why legacy is feared. It grants immortality of impact. But here is the truth. Legacy is not built at the end. It is built now. It is built in the small acts repeated daily. When you rise with discipline, you build legacy. When you remain calm under pressure, you build legacy. When you endure suffering without breaking, you build legacy. Legacy is not a single achievement. It is the accumulation of years of consistency. It is the slow carving of permanence into the world. The law of legacy demands patience. Most men want recognition now. They want applause today, but applause fades. Legacy requires investment without immediate reward. It requires choosing to be remembered, not just noticed. The untouchable man thinks in decades, not days. He thinks in permanence, not popularity. And because of that, his weight grows deeper with time. Think of a stone dropped into water. Fame creates ripples, loud, flashy, but temporary. Legacy sinks deep. It does not ripple. It reshapes the bottom itself. It leaves an imprint that cannot be erased, even when the surface looks calm again. That is why legacy is superior to fame. It is not seen by all, but it is felt forever. Legacy also sharpens focus. When you live with legacy in mind, you stop wasting yourself on petty conflicts, cheap distractions, shallow pursuits. You understand that every action either strengthens your permanence or weakens it. This perspective elevates your choices. It makes you heavier, more deliberate, more unshakable. The law of legacy also teaches humility. It reminds you that the body will fade, time will pass, fortunes will shift, but it also reminds you that your essence can remain. This humility prevents arrogance, because you know the true test of power is not in being celebrated while alive, it is in being remembered after death. The untouchable man builds legacy not by noise, but by consistency. He does not need the crowd to remember every word. He needs his presence to be unforgettable to those who encountered it. Legacy is not about being remembered by everyone. It is about being unforgettable to the right ones, the ones whose lives you shift, whose perception you sharpen, whose discipline you ignite. Comment below, "My legacy begins now." Write it as a vow, because legacy is not something you stumble into. It is something you build deliberately, daily. Machiavelli understood that rulers who thought only of their present reign were doomed to fade. But those who acted with foresight, discipline, and permanence extended their influence beyond their own lifetime. You do not need a throne to do this. You only need mastery over yourself and clarity in your actions. Legacy is not limited to kings. It is available to any man who refuses to waste himself on nothingness. Understand this: every man leaves a legacy, whether he chooses to or not. Some leave emptiness. Some leave chaos. Some leave weakness. But the untouchable man chooses deliberately. He chooses to leave strength. He chooses to leave presence. He chooses to leave inevitability. The law of legacy is not optional. It is unavoidable. The only choice is whether yours will be shallow or eternal. Fame fades, possessions fade, titles fade. But legacy carved into men, carved into memory, carved into reality itself, remains. That is why nobody can outgrow you, because even in absence, you remain present. Even in silence, you are still speaking. Even in death, you are still alive in the weight of your legacy. Number 10, the law of solitude. Power is forged in solitude. Strength is born in silence. The law of solitude is this: the man who cannot stand alone is not yet a man. The untouchable man embraces solitude, not as punishment, not as exile, but as the forge where his character is sharpened. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is command. Understand this. Most men fear solitude. They fear the quiet because it strips away distraction and forces them to confront themselves. Without noise, without validation, without applause, they are left exposed to their own weakness. That is why they avoid silence. That is why they cling to crowds. They are not running toward others. They are running away from themselves. The untouchable man is the opposite. He does not run from himself. He refines himself. He understands that solitude is not emptiness. It is the highest form of training. When you withdraw into solitude, you cut away distraction. You sharpen your mind. You harden your will. You develop clarity that cannot be found in noise. Machiavelli warned rulers against political isolation, but he also recognized the necessity of retreat. A leader who never withdraws becomes clouded by constant influence. The wise man knows when to engage and when to step back. He knows the value of silence, reflection, and distance. Solitude is where foresight deepens, where discipline strengthens, where presence solidifies. In solitude, you discover independence. You realize you do not need applause to act. You do not need validation to move. You do not need recognition to endure. This independence is terrifying to most men, but liberating to you, because once you are enough in solitude, the world loses its grip on you. You no longer crave approval. You no longer fear rejection. You are untouchable because you are whole within yourself. Solitude also builds focus. In crowds, energy scatters. Noise pulls your mind in 1,000 directions. But solitude eliminates distraction. It allows you to direct every ounce of your attention toward mastery. Great works, great thoughts, great power. These are born in solitude. The crowd consumes, the solitary man creates. Solitude also tests resilience. When no one is watching, will you still remain disciplined? When no one applauds, will you still hold the line? When no one praises, will you still move forward? The man who requires eyes upon him is weak. The man who moves with discipline in solitude is strong, because he has proven that his strength is not a performance, it is reality. Think of the warrior who sharpens his blade in silence. When the battle comes, his weapon is ready. But the man who never withdrew, who never prepared in solitude, enters the fight dull and unready. Solitude is sharpening. It is training without witnesses. It is the preparation that turns chaos into opportunity when the moment comes. But solitude is not withdrawal forever. The untouchable man does not hide permanently from the world. He retreats strategically, then returns heavier, sharper, stronger. Solitude is not escape, it is reinforcement. The weak retreat to avoid life, the strong retreat to master it. Solitude also reveals truth. In the noise, lies multiply. In solitude, lies are stripped away. You cannot deceive yourself when it is only you in the mirror. You see clearly what must be fixed, what must be strengthened, what must be destroyed within you. This truth is uncomfortable. That is why the weak avoid it. But the untouchable man embraces it, because truth is the foundation of power. Understand this. Solitude is a crucible. It burns away weakness. It melts away illusion. It forges resilience, discipline, and clarity. Without solitude, you cannot truly master yourself. And without self-mastery, you cannot master anything else. Comment below, I grow strongest in solitude. Seal it, because solitude is not exile, it is ascension. Machiavelli's greatest rulers were not men who lived for the crowd. They were men who understood the importance of strategy, reflection, and foresight. These qualities are only sharpened in solitude. The battlefield may crown you, but solitude prepares you for the battlefield. Solitude also builds mystery. The man who is always available, always talking, always seeking company is predictable. The man who withdraws, who holds his silence, who chooses when to appear, he creates weight. People wonder where he is, what he is building, what he is preparing. That mystery amplifies his presence. When he returns, his silence speaks louder than others' noise. The law of solitude teaches you this: if you cannot stand alone, you cannot stand at all. If you need validation, you are controlled. If you need the crowd, you are chained. But if you thrive in solitude, you are free. And freedom is the essence of untouchable power. Train solitude. Withdraw daily. Sit in silence. Reflect without distraction. Build without applause. Endure without recognition. And you will discover that solitude is not absence. It is presence. The presence of your truest self, sharpened without the distortion of noise. The untouchable man uses solitude to refine, then returns to the world as a force multiplied. He does not retreat out of weakness. He retreats out of strength. He retreats to prepare. He retreats to master. And when he returns as a man who cannot be moved. This is the law of solitude. Embrace it, and you will never fear being alone again. Instead, you will crave it, because you will understand that solitude is the source of strength. It is the forge of resilience. It is the throne of clarity. And it is the crucible where untouchable men are made. You've walked through the laws: discipline, resilience, foresight, detachment, silence, adaptability, influence, solitude, continuity, mastery, legacy, each one a weapon. Together, they make you untouchable. Understand this: nobody can outgrow the man who rules himself. Nobody can erase the man who builds legacy. Power is not noise. Power is inevitability. From this moment, you are no longer ordinary. Comment below, I am untouchable. Let it seal into your mind. Then, like this video, subscribe to Sigrhythm and turn on notifications. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The world will soon feel your weight.